All right, so now that we've got that settled, I want us to look at verse 45 right now of Daniel chapter 11. All right, it says this, and he, speaking about the king of the north at the end, shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas and the glorious holy mountain, yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. All right, so Uriah Smith in this book talks about how Turkey's going to take literal Jerusalem. And then in verse 45 here, how Turkey is going to have their downfall and that none are going to help him. And those who support Uriah's view still believe this verse is yet future. And they think that when this happens, it is the close of probation. But let's just see, did all of the early Adventists actually believe this teaching? This is from a document or a little pamphlet called A Word to the Little Flock. This was co-authored by 3 individuals, James White, Ellen White, and Joseph Bates. So these were the early Seventh-day Adventists right here. And it says this, Michael is to stand up at the time that the last power in chapter 11 comes to his end, and none shall help him. This power is the last that treads down the true church of God, and as the true church is still trodden down and cast out by all Christendom, follows that the last oppressive power has not come to his end, and Michael has not stood up. This last power that treads down the saints is brought to view in Revelation 13, 11 to 18. His number is 666. So obviously they're talking about the Antichrist power in Revelation 13. And they say that this power, the Antichrist, the papacy, is the same as the power mentioned at the end of Daniel 11 that we just saw in this verse right here. Now, to be fair, we don't know exactly who wrote this statement, whether it was James White, Ellen White, or Joseph Bates, but it is worth noting that Ellen White was a co-author of this pamphlet as well. And as we're going to go in these studies, we're going to see that she was in harmony with this view of the King of the North being the papacy at the end of time, not Turkey, my friends. Now, I want us to look at a Seventh-day Adventist research report that was done on Daniel chapter 11. This was published in Ministry Magazine, 1954. This is what they say. It says, without doubt, the papacy, if it is the power of Daniel chapter 11, verses 36 to 39, must also play a part in the historical fulfillment of these verses, for the pronoun him in verse 40 must refer to the power brought to view in verses 36 to 39. They're saying that if that king that we saw in verse 36 that does according to his will is the papacy, he must be the power that's spoken about in Daniel chapter 11, verse 40 as well. That king of the north through the king of the south is pushing at the end of time. All right, so if the Seventh-day Adventist movement was truly founded upon the teaching that the king of the north at the end of time is the papacy, then where did that switch come about that we have people now trying to say that Turkey is the king of the north at the end? Let's look at a statement here from Froome. This is Prophetic Faith of Our Fathers. He says this, speaking about Uriah Smith. For the first 16 years of his editorial connection with the review, Uriah Smith held this power in Daniel chapter 11, verse 45 to be the papacy. But in 1871, in his thoughts on Daniel articles, he changed his view to that of Turkey. All right, so very fascinating. All right, this is Pioneers of Daniel 11 and Armageddon. James White in the review of November 29, 1877, some years after Uriah Smith had shifted from his own original position, substituting Turkey for Rome, wrote advising caution in the interpretation of unfulfilled prophecy and found Uriah Smith removing the landmarks fully established in the Advent movement. All right, so here we see one of the strongest members, the first president of the Adventist movement, calling the papacy view of the King of the North at the end a landmark. That is a very heavy statement. So it was Uriah, according to James White, that shifted the landmark. So that's a very interesting statement right there. All right, so we can say that the Turkey view is actually a new view, not some original old view of the Seventh-day Adventist movement.